Good to see everyone. We'll dedicate our learning to the return of the safe and speedily return of the hostages and the safety of the IDF soldiers and all the Yidden all over the world. Okay, we're going to start. I would like to go over that Gemara inside on Maimar. So we're going to start on page 6a, Vav Amud Aleph, 6a, 6 lines up from the bottom of the page. We're going to start from Maimar. Until here, the Gemara had told us that Rabbi Yossi holds the latest opinion, that when do the three rains fall, the three early rains called Yoira. There's the Reviya Rishona, the first one, the second one, Reviya Shnia, and then the third one is called Reviya Shlishas. These three rains that are all under the category of Yoira. When are they officially supposed to fall? And the Gemara had different opinions. We had Reb Meir was the earliest time, Reb Yehuda was the middle, and then Reb Yossi was the later times. And the Gemara said that the halacha follows Reb Yossi, and the Gemara mentioned that Reb Yossi's view was at some point called the Chachamim. Chachamim Omer Yera b'Kislev. That the Chachamim said that Yoira is in Kislev, and the Gemara said, who is those Chachamim that say Yoira is in Kislev? We always know Yoira is in Cheshvan. And the Cheshvan's October, Kislev is normally November, December. So the Gemara says, who is this Chachamim that has such a late time? The Gemara says, this is Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion that the Yechidim, which we'll see on the Daf Yud, we'll see later, who are the Yechidim, that they are the scholars. They start fasting on the Yechidim, the scholars start fasting, or the Chasidim, on a Monday, Thursday, and Monday if it doesn't rain by the final Yoira rain. What does that mean? The final Yoira rain. What that means is that Rabbi Yossi's opinion is the latest opinion that we've seen, and that is Kislev, Rosh Chodesh Kislev, and that is the end, the final rain. It's the 17th, the 23rd, and Rosh Chodesh Kislev. And so the Gemara says that if it doesn't rain by Kislev, that's when Rabbi Yossi said that if they don't start fasting unless it doesn't rain until Kislev. If it doesn't rain and Kislev arrives, that's when the special people start fasting. They do a Monday, Thursday, and Monday fast. And we're going to be learning about those fasts later on in Mitzvah Hashem. And that fits with Rabbi Yossi, because according to the other opinions, when would you fast? Well, according to Reb Meir, the third day of Cheshvan, the 7th day of Cheshvan, and the 17th of Cheshvan are the three rains. So according to Reb Meir, the 17th would be the day that you start fasting. It doesn't rain by then, right? And Rabbi Yehuda would say, Rabbi Yehuda has the 7th, the 17th, and the 23rd. So the 23rd would be the day that you would start fasting. But the Gemara said that Rabbi Yossi holds Rosh Chodesh Kislev, and the Gemara says, Amar Rav Chizda halacha ke Rabbi Yossi. Rav Chizda says that the halacha follows Rabbi Yossi. Now, what does that apply to? How does that apply? Well, like what practical application is there when you say when is the first rain supposed to rain or the third rain? So we just said one of the cases that it applies to is if it doesn't rain by the final rain, the Yechidim have to start fasting. The special people, the Chasidim, or the Talmidei Chachamim, the scholars, they start fasting. So that would be the applicable rule of why we know when the third rain is, and that's why there's a debate in halacha, because it has a practical application as well. And the other thing would be, what would be when do you start asking for rain? When we don't really ask for rain earlier than when we're supposed to have rain. So when are we supposed to have the rain? According to last day of Sukkot. Well, that's when we mention rain. But when do we ask for rain? So according to Rabbi Yossi, you really don't ask for rain until you're supposed to have it. When are you supposed to have the rain? When's the first rain supposed to come? According to Rabbi Yossi, the 17th of Cheshvan, 1723 in Rosh Chodesh Kislev. So if 17 is the first time, the first rain, so that would be a good time. It would be apropos to start asking for rain on the 17th of Cheshvan. So when the Gemara here says that the halacha is Rabbi Yossi, that would seemingly affect all of those rules. There's the first rain rule that you start asking for rain. The third rain is when you start fasting. If it doesn't rain by the third rain. And then the second rain, the Gemara will soon tell us what does the second rain affect? What halacha does the second rain affect? But anyway, that would be the discussion here of these rabbis. Well, that's really what they're discussing is these halachas of fasting, of when to ask for rain, the same Talmud levracha. When is this rain supposed to come? When. So, and then the second rain, which we'll soon see. Now, before we go to the Gemara further, the Gemara says there is another view here. A Meimar Masni L'Had Rav Chisda. Meimar learns, again, we're on the sixth line up from the bottom of the page on page 6a. Meimar learned this of Rav Chisda Bahal Lishna. He taught it in the following context. In other words, Rav Chisda did say who the halacha follows, but it was not mentioned on this brisa. It was mentioned on a Mishnah. And which Mishnah is it referring to? So he says that Meimar learned it in this way, B'shloisha b'Marcheshvan, on the third day of Marcheshvan. This is a Mishnah on page 10. And on the third day of Cheshvan, Shoyalen es Hageshamim. We ask for the rain, the same Talmud levracha. We put in a request for rain in our Shemona Esrei 3 times a day. We ask Hashem for rain, the same Talmud levracha. Start at the third of Cheshvan. That is the first view. It doesn't have a name. Generally, it's Reb Meir, but doesn't tell us. And then we have the next view. In fact, this view fits with what we said earlier, that Reb Meir holds that the 3 rains are the 3rd, the 7th, and the 17th. So it would seem to fit with him. Then we have Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel, Omer b'Shiva Bay. When do you start asking for rain? On the 7th day of Cheshvan. Now, if you're starting to ask for rain on the 7th day of Cheshvan, that would mean that the first rain is supposed to be on the 7th, and the second rain would be on the 17th, and the third rain would be on the 23rd. That would be Rabbi Yehuda's views, right? Sounds like Rabbi Gamliel is following Rabbi Yehuda, because he's saying, when do you start asking for rain? On the 7th day. That means that the 7th day is the day when you're supposed to get rain. That means that that's the time for the Reviyah. That's the time for the Reviyah Rishona of Yorah. For the first rain of the Yorah, according to Rabbi Gamliel, would be on the 7th. So, Amar Rav Chisda halacha k'Rabban Gamliel. So now we have another view. A Meimar is saying, yeah, nice that you heard you understood from Rav Chisda that he was paskening on that brisa and saying that the halacha follows Rabbi Yossi, but my tradition is that Rav Chisda was talking about this Mishnah where it doesn't even mention Rabbi Yossi, and it only mentions 2 opinions, and the halacha follows this Mishnah that's uses the name Rabbi Gamliel for the author of this opinion, the source of this opinion. It calls it Rabbi Gamliel's opinion, but really this would be the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that we saw in the Brisa, because Rabbi Yehuda spelled it out that when is the first rains of Yorah start at the 7th, then the 17th, then the 23rd. So when do you start asking? On the 7th. So that's Rabbi Gamliel. So in other words, Rav Meimar is saying that the halacha follows Rabbi Gamliel. Okay, so then that means we have 2 opinions here of who should the halacha who should the halacha go like with regard to these rains? Now, the Gemara then continues and says, who does it go like this opinion that we learned in a Bryce? You have rain, that it rains 7 days, one after another, that you count the first rain, the second rain, and the third rain. Now, it doesn't mean that you can count all three. It means that you could count either the first and second, or the second and third. And I explained it a little yesterday that basically when it rains 7 days in a row, there's room to say that maybe this is all called the first of the three rains, or it's the second of the three rains, or maybe it's the third of the three rains. It rained, it didn't stop. So there's room to say that maybe this doesn't cover the second rain. It's not called the second rain, or it's not called the third rain, or it's not called the first, because this is, it never stopped to be able to give it a new title of this is the third rain, this is the second. You can't call it two. You call it one of them. It's whatever day it starts on, or whatever, maybe there was a rain before it, so then it's the second and third maybe, but or if it's the first and the second, fine. It should, it's considered seven. It's considered the 7 day rain is considered, it covers two of the three rains that are necessary to be called, that are necessary for Yoreh. So, and what I mentioned yesterday was it's similar to, you find in Hilchas Nida these type of questions when it comes to a woman that's menstruating and she has a flow. There's always a question: did the flow stop and start again, which would give her two different dates for her flow, or do we consider it it's a continuation of the earlier flow, and therefore you only calculate from the beginning of the original flow, and so on. So it's sort of like reminds me of that issue here. So here, when it rains twice, the law is that it's considered like two, at least. Now, the problem that you have with this brisa is that which opinion can it fit like? So it's a 7 day rain. If it said 10 days and you could count it as two, then it could fit with Reb Meir, because he holds the second rain is the 7th, the third rain is the 17th. So if it rained 10 days in a row, that could fit with Reb Meir, right? Or if according to Rabbi Yehuda, he held the 7th, the 17th, and the 23rd. So if it rained 10 days in a row, could fit with Rabbi Yehuda as well, right? Got the 7th and the 17th there. But if it says 7 days in a row, there's only one view that it could fit. The first and second rain and the second and third rain both seem to fit with the view of Rabbi Yossi. Now Tosfos is bothered because he says if you calculate, the 17 to 23, how much is 17 to 23? If you add it together, 7 to 23 is 6. 7 plus 17 plus 6 is 23. Now 23 to Rosh Chodesh Kislev, which means the 30th day, how much is that? 23 to 30 is really 7. So there's a difference of a day, and the understanding would be that when it says it rained for 7 days, what days did it rain on? So according to Rabbi Yossi, let's pick. So it started raining, let's say, on the first Yoreh, the first of the Yorehs. Which one is that? 17th. So 17, 18, 19, 20, that's 4. 21, 22, 23. So it rained all 7 days, which covered the 17th. Wait 1 second, did I calculate right? 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 is 7. So it rained on both the beginning, the first Yoreh, and the second Yoreh. Tosfos says, what about if you look at the second two? In other words, the second and the third, the second and the third, then you're going to be messed up because maybe it rained on the 23rd, So if you calculate 7 days, 23rd, 24th, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So it didn't rain on the 30th. So how do you covering the second rain of Yaira and the third rain of Yaira? So Taisus is bothered with that. And then at the end, he mentions Anshe Nervoina have a way of making it work, because it could start raining in the middle of the day. So if it starts in the middle of the day, then you do have 7, because it starts in the middle of the 23rd day. In other words, let's say it starts at midday, let's say. So it starts at noon on the 23rd. So you have noon on the 23rd till noon on the 24th is one day, to the 25th, to the 26th, to the 27th, to the 28th, to the 29th, to the 30th at noon. It stops at noon. It rains 7 24-hour periods. So it actually covered 8 days, but because it rained within a period of 8 days, but it was 7 24-hour periods, and that's the way would work to explain it that way. And that's seemingly the way Rashi is learning that it fits it. It's going to rain some of it. It doesn't have to rain the whole day for Yair, some of it. Yes, Isaac.
That's what I was going to ask you to forgive me, because I missed it the beginning of this whole sugya. When you say it rained on a day, does it mean it rained for a while, and for how long counts as a while? It has to rain the entire day? These are the basic questions I would ask at the beginning.
Right.
What kind of rain? I mean, you have a good shower for 10 minutes.
Right.
That's considered rain? Yeah, why not? I don't know. For what purpose how long does it have to rain to be a rain?
Right. And the question especially would apply, because we translated the word Yaira meant shemerave es haaretz umashke ad tohim, that it sounds like it's saturated. It's not just a small, from that word, if we're translating it to mean that it saturates the earth, it sounds like it wouldn't be enough if it's just going to be a light shower.
Right.
And on the other hand, if you translate it, the other translations, maybe it could get away with less of a rain. It teaches
now,
you to get.
Surprised. Why is there no discussion of this anywhere?
Well, first of all, we didn't finish the Gemara yet.
Oh, okay. I would think at the outset that there would be some discussion, but fine.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So in any event, what we're seeing here is that the Brisa says 7 days, and the Gemara says, who does this go like? So the Gemara answers, Kaman ki Rabbi Yosi. Who does it go like? It goes like Rabbi Yosi. And so so let's just look back at what we've just learned. So we had different opinions when Yaira is, and we even spoke about when Malkosh is, different months. We spoke about the 3 rains of Yaira. And then we said that the halacha follows Rabbi Yosi about the 3 rains of Yaira. And then we jumped to Ameimar's opinion, and we said Ameimar also brings in a halacha from Rav Chisda, and he says, but the halacha follows, it goes on the Mishnah, and you don't even have the opinion of Rav Yosi there. And Rav Chisda says a halacha there, and he says the halacha follows Rabbi Gamliel, which also means the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda. So that's a different opinion than Rav Yosi. So we have these 2 opinions, and then the Gemara just mentioned, who does this brisa go like? And we said it goes like Rabbi Yosi. And then the Gemara again shoots in, Amar Rav Chisda, halacha Rabbi Yosi. Rav Chisda says the halacha is like Rabbi Yosi. Well, the Gemara already said that the halacha follows Rabbi Yosi. So it does seem a little surprising that the Gemara is going to again repeat itself and say halacha Rabbi Yosi. We said halacha is Rabbi Yosi. We said Ameimer says halacha is Rabbi Gamliel, which also means Rabbi Yehuda. And then now we're jumping. The Gemara somehow like repeats itself and says halacha Rabbi Yosi. So Rashi on the bottom tells us that you're really supposed to be goyrus. You're supposed to have a different version here, that it should say Rav Chisda says halachas Rabbi Yehuda. That it should say that the halacha follows, Rav Chisda says halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda. That was the way his Rebbe Nira Rebbe, that's the girsa, that's the proper girsa, which would mean that the Ameimar had said that the halacha follows Rebbe Gamliel, and then the Gemara mentions a similar version to Ameimar's where it says that the halacha follows Rebbe Yehuda, which is the same opinion, but it would at least fit with what it was mentioning earlier, that it says Ameimar, that Ameimar said the halacha is Rebbe Gamliel. And then the Gemara mentions, we're going to talk about the three rains. So the Gemara mentions that the Rav Chisda said halacha is Kereb Yehuda. So it seems like there's a difference in the different ways of fitting this in. Why the Gemara, or what the Gemara is really saying by repeating this statement of Rav Chisda and who the halacha really follows. And there is a discussion really in Shulchan Aruch about who the halacha follows. So it's not as simple as it sounds. It could be based on this issue here. First of all, do we go by Meimar? Do we go by the earlier Gemara? Or do we go by what's going to go by the Gemara saying over here later? Yes, David.
Yeah, I'm looking at a footnote in the Steinsaltz about Rabbi Yossi.
Yeah,
and it says that he was one of the main disciples of Rabbi Akiva. It was Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And it says that Rabbi Yossi, his opinions are so well considered that the rule was established that the halacha is always according to Rabbi Yossi. If he's in a dispute with any of the other leading students of Rabbi Akiva mentioned above.
So that's interesting, because does he discuss why Ameimar seemed to bring a source that it doesn't follow Rabbi Yossi? Does he have any note on that?
I don't see that. No.
Right.
This is just a large footnote about Rabbi Yossi.
Talking about him rather than explaining the Gemara. I see.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
it's almost like cheating. Like like ahead of time, you're going to know that in any dispute with any of the other leading students of Rabbi Akiva that are mentioned above, i.e., Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Meir, that the halacha is always like Rabbi Yossi.
Right.
It's good to know ahead of time so you know where you're going. I mean, it's good to know the others' opinions, but it's interesting.
Yeah. So we have in our Gemara, it does definitely mention that the halacha follows Rabbi Yossi, but we also have a Meimar saying that halacha follows Rabbi Gamliel, and then the Gemara seems to repeat it in other words, that halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda, who's the other opinion of Rabbi Yossi, which is, but it fits with Rabbi Gamliel because it's the same view. Now, if you think about it,
here it says it's always halacha is always like Rabbi Yossi.
Right.
Rabbi Yossi. In the dispute with any other leading students of Rabbi Akiva that were mentioned above, namely Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. It doesn't say about Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, so it might be different because it's a different dispute.
Yeah, no, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yehuda held the same thing in our Gemara.
Oh, okay.
So it's the same view of Rabbi Yehuda. So this, I mean, it definitely seems a little surprising over here. This issue, especially because we know what do we do? When do we start asking for rain in Eretz Yisrael? They start on the 7th of Cheshvan. Now, who does that go like? Does that go like
Rabbi Meir, isn't it? I'm sorry.
Well, let's think. Rabbi Meir said the first rain is the 3rd of Cheshvan. The second rain is the 7th. The third rain is the 17th. Which one would tell us when to start asking for rain?
Rabbi Yehuda?
So 1 second. So the first rain would be the one you start asking because that's when it's supposed to rain. According to Rabbi Meir, it will be the 3rd of Cheshvan. In Eretz Yisrael, they start on the 7th. So let's try Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says the three rains are the 7th, the 17th, and the 23rd. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, it would seem to fit very well that you would ask for rain. And Rabbi Yossi would seemingly hold that you wait till the 17th because his rains, he holds the rains are supposed to be on the 17th, the 23rd, and Rosh Chodesh Kislev. So according to Rabbi Yossi, maybe they shouldn't start on the 7th. They should start on the 17th. So it seems like with regard to rain, maybe we don't follow Rabbi Yossi. We'd have to look into this exactly. One of the places would be the Beis Yosef, who talks about where the halacha comes from, exactly which Gemara they're basing it on. So we'd have to see maybe in the Beis Yosef how he, maybe there's other understandings. But it seems like they're paskening like Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Yehuda. That's what it seems like. So just along, talking is which sounds contrary to what you're saying, David. Yeah, but even though maybe generally we pass them like Rabbi Yossi, but maybe there are exceptions. Maybe there's, but the question, what would the reason be for this exception? But it seems like paskening like Rabbi Yehuda from at least in Eretz Yisrael when they start for rain. Yes, Moshe.
This group of Rebbeim, Rabbi Yossi is the one, according to David, is the one that has the first say in this thing. In other words, Rabbi Yossi is the one that makes his posking holds in this under these circumstances. I'm trying to understand what David was saying, basically. He
was just saying that in general we paskin like Rabbi Yossi. He normally wins any debate. Always Rabbi Yossi is the
with this specific group of Rebbeim. You're saying when he's
amongst those students of Rabbi Akiva, he was the he was the one who the halacha normally follows. So anyway,
as a side thing, it says in this footnote that it says that it's told that Eliyahu Navi would reveal himself to Rabbi Yossi every day, and several conversations between them are recorded in the Gemara.
Who would reveal himself to Rabbi Yossi? Say that one more time.
Eliyahu Navi.
Eliyahu Navi would reveal himself to Rabbi Yossi.
On a daily basis, and several conversations between them are recorded in the Gemara.
Right. Wow. Okay. So. Now, the other question would be, when do we start fasting? What does halacha say? What's the final halacha? Because there is a Stam Mishnah on Daf Yud. The Mishnah is called the Stam Mishnah. We normally paskin like a Stam Mishnah, a Mishnah that is doesn't have other opinions. It's the Mishnah is Stam, just leaves out, and it's an anonymous Mishnah is normally the final halacha. And what does it say there?
Right. The anonymity has nothing to do with the argument. It just doesn't say. It could be the Tanakama sometimes. It's just unnamed.
Yeah, but here the Mishnah doesn't bring another view. When it doesn't bring another view, it's generally the halacha follows the Stam Mishnah. Now the Stam Mishnah says that the 17th of Cheshvan came and it didn't rain, then the scholars start fasting. Now, who would that follow? And that's a Stam Mishnah. That seems to follow, believe it or not, Reb Meir. So now we're really confused because we've got a Stam Mishnah that we really should follow, and that would seem to go like Reb Meir's view, which is the earliest view. We've got the halacha that we seem to follow with asking for rain in Israel. It seems to follow Reb Yehuda, and then we have the Gemara in what David was telling us, that really the halacha should follow Reb Yossi.
Isn't the Stam Mishnah Reb Meir? The Gemara says later, Stam Mishnah Reb Meir, that he was the anonymous author of all.
Normally, that the halacha follows. So we have a Stam Mishnah that says it his way. So there seems to be room to say the halacha follows like all three of these. We've got Reb Meir's Stam Mishnah. We've got Reb Yehuda, who the halacha we know seems to follow, and when we start asking for rain in Eretz Yisrael, and we've got That's Rabbi Yehuda, and then we have Rabbi Yossi
Rabbi
who
Yossi Aglili.
Rabbi Yossi who the halacha should follow. I don't know if it's the same Rabbi Yossi. Is Rabbi Yossi Stam the same as Rabbi Yossi Aglili? It might be. I don't know. I have to look up in the book.
This says it's Rabbi Yossi is Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta.
Ben Chalafta. Right.
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, let's continue to be looked into. We got to research this and figure out who the halacha really follows with all these contradictions. And we have Rashi adding that Rav Chizda says halachas Rav Yehuda. Rashi brings from his Rebbe. Okay. Then the Gemara goes and discusses what is the halachic ramifications of these rains, which we've already spoken a little about. So the Gemara says Bishleima Revi'eh Rishayna is lishol. We're on the bottom line now of the Gemara on page 6a. Bottom line. So it's good, the Revi'eh Rishayna, the first of these rains of Yaira, the first of the rains is teaching us a halacha that's when you start asking for rain. It makes sense. That's when it's supposed to rain. That's when you should ask. So when it's supposed to rain on the first one, should start on the first one. Now the third one, the Shlishis, the third rain, if it doesn't rain by the third rain, that would make sense. A good time to apropos time to start fasting. You got the Yaira rain supposed to come, and none of them came. The last one didn't show up. It still hasn't rained. Then it's time to ask Hashem for rain. So by the third one, Shlishis is lehizanos, to start fasting. At least for the scholars, the Yechidim, it's called. Now, but the second rain, Shni Olamai. What is the second rain going to halachic? What halachic change is there by knowing when the second rain is supposed to be? What were these rabbis working so hard to figure out when is the second rain? What halachic ramification does the second rain play? So Amar Reb Zera l'Nedarim. So Reb Zera says that it tells us a halacha about Nedarim Knan, because we learned in a Mishnah, and there's debate over here which Mishnah this really refers to, because there's a source in Nedarim and there's a source in Shvius. But when we now turn the page, we're on 6b. Hanoider ad hageshamim. If person makes a vow that they're not going to benefit from something until the geshamim, until the rain, like the rainy season. So the halacha is, and I'm going to skip the next two words. The Bach says you're supposed to change it to ad sheyehu geshamim. That if he says until the geshamim or until there is geshamim, but basically it refers to the second rain, ad shetered revi'ah shniya, until the second rain shows up. You don't, in other words, the first rain doesn't really play a role. If a person said until the geshamim, it's not enough. The first rain of Yaira is not good enough. If you made a vow until the rains, you got to wait till the second one. That's when it's officially the rains. Now Rashi struggles or gives us two explanations, I should say, that why do you have to wait for the second one? So the first explanation is that's the way people talk. When you make a vow, it goes by the way people just say things. So because people talk and say when they talk about till the rainy season, so when they say such a term, that's what they're referring to. It means the second one. That's when it starts getting messy. The other pshat Rashi says is that it goes by geshamim, that it says plural, so it means the second rain. So now the reason Rashi tells us what's the reason that it would be the second rain. So Rashi tells us because after it starts getting disgusting. The roads they become all ruined and muddy basically. So that would be a reason why people. Rashi says this on the first explanation. In other words, why would people say the rainy season means the second rain? Because people are talking about when people talk, they're dealing with the issue at hand, which would be the muddiness and the schmutz. So that's why people would say that. Now, when it comes to if it goes by the plural of geshamim, then I guess you don't need a reason. People say rains until the rains, they refer to the second rain. That would be his second explanation. You don't need a reason for that. I guess it's just what does the words mean? The word means the rains. That means the second one. Now, this is the first opinion. So according to this opinion of why we need to know the second time for the rain, the reason is because Nidarim, if someone makes a vow and they mention the specific time for their vow, they mention the time frame of it is until the rains, until the Geshamim, so it would be applicable until the second one. In other words, even if the first one rained, even if it rained on the first rain, that wouldn't be you wouldn't have fulfilled your vow until the second one comes around, and that would be the final. That would be until then. You would have to keep your vow, and once that second rain comes, you would be exempt then from your vow. Yes, David.
Says the opinion is like Rabbi Yossi. He's the only one out of the whole group that makes an interval of 7 days between each of the rainfalls.
Right. Now, that's not. It's not that that's the halacha. It's that Rabbi Yossi is the author of that brisa.
Oh.
In other words, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says it, and who is he following? Which view is he going along the train of thought of? He's following the view of Reb Yossi. But then afterwards, the Gemara seems to push in over there and stick it in again that Rav Chizda says that the halacha is like Reb Yossi, and Rashi switches it and says it should be saying halacha is Reb Yehuda.
Right.
So again, it's a little surprising that the Gemara pushes in. Whichever one is a little surprising. Just mute up noise here.
Because what he's saying in the footnote is that this idea that the halacha is like Rabbi is always according to Rabbi Yossi. This might be connected to the fact that Rabbi Yossi was known for his moderation, and all of his rulings were always like in the middle.
Right. That which would be an explanation maybe why we normally paskin like him, but in this case he was a little more extreme than the others because his view was later than everyone else. So I mean, that's I don't know if here you see like a more of a like a mediator type of view of Rabbi Yossi. I mean, it's just like they all pick dates. I mean, I don't know if it's I don't know if you see that element here, but that would be a general reason. Yeah.
The very next line is the Rabbi Chisda says the halacha is according to Rabbi Yossi of this whole of this piece that we're saying.
Yeah. Oh, but again, if it said it already, why is it repeating it? So you're saying because he normally has a medium type of view, but here he's not showing that medium view. That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't really emphasize that. Maybe if you want to say,
isn't it a medium view? He's pointing out, Rabbi Steinsaltz, that he's the only one from the whole group that has a set interval of 7 days between each of the rainfalls.
So because he has more of a organized opinion. I mean, his opinion sets it. I think that sounds surprising. I could understand if it's more of like he's the medium view, so his view is a more accepted view. I could understand such a thought that would be the you don't need to be so extreme either way. But the medium view is normally who the halacha follows. I could hear such a view. I'm not familiar with that. The final halacha goes that way. But that I could understand. But if you say because he picks fixed amounts, I don't know. Does that sound like the halacha should follow that because he has it more fixed? His is not exact either because one is 6 and one is 7 days. But it's a little maybe it's a little more neater. His views are neater than the others. I don't know. I think the medium sounds like it could be halacha. Like you could say, like we're not obligated to take the most extreme view in halacha, you take the medium view. I could hear such a thing. I don't know. I don't know if it would apply to halacha daraisa. You're supposed to be machmir, like the most extreme view. Maybe you could say you don't have to. The medium view, because the lenient view definitely agrees. It's like majority. You could say maybe that the medium view agrees with the lenient view agrees with the medium view. So then it's you're definitely doing like the majority, But if you want to say it just because he has it more organized, I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with such a reasoning for halacha. Yes, Moshe.
Right. So, in other words, it should be, instead of being fixed, it should be more variable, the views, in other words. It shouldn't be, when you say medium view, I'm trying to understand, does it mean more variable, or you're saying more, like Rabbi Yossi is more fixed, in other words, every 7 days, I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, well, we're all trying to understand it. We're just hearing it from David's footnote over there, and we're trying to decipher it. The best would be if we found the source of it. We could read it in the Hebrew, where it was the way it was written initially, and then maybe see if it has a source. What
right.
I'm sure it has a source. I'm sure it's correct. I'm just saying, like, we could understand the specific details of it. The problem is that once they start translating things, and you can start, we could start coming up with the wrong interpretation. So I'm not sure about it, but it sounds like an interesting little insight. Thank you, David, for bringing it up.
Yeah,
But
it says that it's Rabbi Steinsaltz's opinion, because he doesn't say that this is a figure. He says this principle that it's always according to Rabbi Yossi may be related to the fact that Rabbi Yossi is known for moderation in all his rulings.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So that could also be like, it's more of a general idea that the reason the halacha follows him in general, it's an interesting, right? It's an interesting thought of Rabbi Steinsaltz. Very nice. Thank you for sharing it. We'll have to see as we go along. We'll have to see if we see that about Rabbi Yossi. Again, I don't think this case fits it so perfectly that, which doesn't have to. It doesn't mean every single view of his has to be somewhere in the middle, especially where it's not really being strict or lenient here. It's just the fact, Here you don't see a strictness or a leniency. It's more of a fact when the rains are supposed to come. But okay, so getting back to our Gemara, we already said that the law of Nedarim would be applicable for when the second rain is. Rav Zvid says, you know what the second rain applies to? L'zeisim, it applies to olives. Did not, because we learned in a mission of Amos, I call Adam with Tarim Leket Shikhan Peya. When is everyone permitted to have Leket Shikhan Peya? What does that mean? Everyone's permitted. Leket Shikhan Peya are these gifts, these donations that we give to the poor. And person had a field, they had to leave over certain stuff for the aniyim, for the poor people. Now, the interesting question is that they say that nowadays, even in Israel, they don't leave these leket shikhan peya. And the question is why? Why don't we leave leket shikhan peya nowadays? So the understanding, and which I believe is brought in Shulchan Aruch, has to do with the fact that you only leave leket shikhan peya when poor people are going to come and pick it up. But because nowadays the poor people don't go to get 5 stalks of grain or 100 stalks of grain, they want, there are charity organizations that help them. So because of that, it doesn't really the law of leket shikhan peya doesn't really apply nowadays. I have to look in Shulchan Aruch and find out, but that's what I'm of the understanding that's what that it's brought down, such a concept that they don't really leave the leket shikhan peya. Leket shikhan peya has to do with if they forget they miss harvesting a certain stalk or some that's like shikha, or you forget a bundle, you forget some stalks, so that would be shikha. You have to leave it for the poor. If you get 1 or 2 bundles, you forgot. Leket is if you're cutting and a few fall from your hand, so you're holding a whole bunch and you're using the sickle, and a few fall out of your hand. So If it's one or two, then you got to leave it for the poor. So again, the poor people are not really running to get this stuff nowadays. But in the olden days, this was really a source of their livelihood. This is how their sustenance. So the leket shikon peah had to be left for the poor people. And when it came to grapes and olives, there were other types of gifts that were given to the poor, specifically peret and oilulais, which are the terms used for the grapes, which had to do with grapes that fell from the tree and they're on the floor. That's called peret. Oilulais is if they're sort of like bad clusters are not like healthy clusters, so you got to leave it for the poor. So these are types of gifts to the poor. And it says, when can everyone benefit from and enjoy that these fruits after the poor people when the poor people finish taking their portion? And basically the way Rashi puts it is everyone they give up hope from even getting any more. So when do they give it, like almost like make it hefker? When do they make it ownerless and like make it free for all? When do they like not care about it anymore? So the Mishnah tells us, let's read it inside. We learned in a Mishnah, when is everyone permitted to have leket shikon peah, to have these food produce that was meant for the poor? When can everyone now take it? In other words, that the poor people have given up hope. They've given up their expectation of getting anything from it. That they're basically saying, we don't care for it anymore. When does that happen? Or we're not going to find anything there anymore. So then everyone is allowed to come. When does that happen? Misha yelchu hanamushais, when the nemushais pass through. That's the leket shikon peah. What about peret beperet of oilois? That when it comes to peret and oilois for grapes, when do everyone, even rich people, could come and take? When the poor people come in the vineyard and they come a second time, and once they come a second time, everyone else, all the poor people, they basically say, I'm not getting anything there. So, and then when it comes to olives, with zaysim, so when it comes to the olives, the gifts that were given to the olives, so the law was that it went to the poor, but once the Revi'ah Shniya came, once the second rain came, then they're basically not expecting anything to be left. They've taken by that time the poor people took everything. Whatever is left is basically free for all. So that's the law about the second rain. Somehow it's connected. The second rain is the perfect timing, I guess, for we don't live in an agricultural society, but in such an area, I guess they would know when does olives become ripe, so when are the so the timing for that would basically be in other words, when do they finish taking for the poor people finish taking their portion, would basically be the second rain. So they gave the timing for the second timing for people, even rich people, can come and take it, is the second rain. So when someone asks you what is the applicable law about the second rain, the answer would be applicable law according to this view is it's the olives that even rich people are allowed to come and take olives that were meant for the poor, because the poor people are now what is the term in the Hebrew, the Aramaic is called meyayish. They give up hope from it. That even the poor people don't expect to get anything, that there's anything left, so they give up hope. Once they give up hope, everyone can go and take it. There's an interesting question over here that Rabbi Kiva Eger asks, that he says that where is it located? Where are these grapes and olives and the leket shikon peah, the the bundles of wheat, of grain, and the stalks. Where are they located? They're located on a personal field. It's an owner. The owner, there's a field that they're located on. So he says, why would people be allowed to take it? Shouldn't the owner
bring it out to them?
No, shouldn't the owner automatically own it because it's on his property? It's called kinyan chutzner. The fact that it's on his property, shouldn't that make, and they don't want it anymore. The poor people don't want it anymore. So naturally, something falls on someone's property and they want it, or if you want to give someone a gift and you put it on their property, becomes theirs because it's a kinyan chutzner. There's a type of acquisition called the property takes ownership of it. So he asks this very strong question, like it would seem like the owner would now own it, and you can't just have other people come and take it. The poor people don't want it, then the owner of the property gets it. It says it's on his property.
He doesn't want it either.
What?
He doesn't want it either.
Well, it's easy for us to say that because we live in a whole different type of way of living. But in those days, it wasn't so simple. The poor people wanted
it must be also still related to the effort needed to get it, the condition that it's in, whether you can easily make bread out of it, or whether you got soggy, damped, infested with roaches and other things laying there, and it's a pain to clean it out. You have to clean it out because the next planting is coming. So you have to have the stuff cleared away.
I hear you. But then again, the point is, who would be the easiest person to get it would basically be the owner, and he's got water running right there. You know, he's the one who
right.
has
I'm saying but if
seemingly,
yeah, okay, but yeah, you're right.
Seemingly, he would be the most fit person who would possibly want it, if anyone wants it. You know, and especially because we're talking about situation where we're saying even the rich people are allowed to take it now. You know, that's the way Rashi uses that term, even right. So it sounds like, you know, there might be something of value. And in that case, it would seem like he should have, you know, he should have first rights. So one of the commentaries wants to say that once he took it out, it was on his property all along. It's been on his property all along. And once he gave it, he took it out purposely of his ownership to give to the poor, then it doesn't have the rule of his property acquiring it afterwards, because he actively took it out of his property. If he didn't actively take it out of his property would have acquired it. But because he actively took it out of his possession, that causes that it doesn't actually come back. That's one way of looking at it. Again, Rabbi Akiva Eiger, I think, leaves it as a question. I have to look it up. It's on the Mishnah. But there is such an insight. Yes, Ben.
I wanted to say it's a mitzvah to leave stuff for the poor.
Yeah.
Now, if you left it for the poor, that's you made a mitzvah. Now you don't want to break that by going and picking some of that back up.
Well, your mitzvah you did already. They don't want it, so you don't have to get rodents.
No, you clean it up before you need, when you need the field clean. That's when you'll clean it.
So
doesn't mean now. It could be before you seed again.
The thing is that once the Gemara is telling us, and based on Mishnayos, that after a certain time you don't have to just leave it around. You could get rid of it now because you gave it to the poor. They didn't want it, and that's now it's going to be free for all. You could give it away to other people. Yeah,
it happens now. It happens now in our time. You don't want something in your garage, you bring it out to the corner by the mailbox. The poor people come, they look through it. If they don't want it, they don't take it. And then you have to clean it up after they messed the whole thing up. And then you have to clean that up. So we're still in the same ballpark.
Right. The thing is, when it comes to your stuff, even people who aren't poor might come and take it.
Yeah, like
this,
you said, even the rich
right?
people go and pick up the olives.
Yeah, well, but when, here, at least initially, it's meant for the poor. They don't take
Yeah.
it, then you give it. And the truth of the matter is, that it happens, like these big hotels that for Pesach, they make a after Pesach. What do the hotels do with all the extra food? So they try to get it to the poor people. But if not, then everyone can come and you give it away. They can't take it back. They live in New York. The hotel is here. They're not carrying some steaks, 20 steaks or something. They give it to they have a big blocks of cheese. They're not carrying it back to New York. They give it to the community. So who gets it? Initially, it's the poor people. Afterwards, it's just everyone. They're not gonna, instead of throwing it out, let the poor people don't want it. Other people can have it. Yes, Moshe.
Yeah.
As you know, down here
Yellow
in
cap
Florida,
Pepsis.
But 1 second, we got 2 people at once. Moshe.
down here, Fountain Blue and Eden Rock, during Pesach, after all the food is available, they put it downstairs in the freezer, and people can come and raid the freezer and take what they want out of there. Otherwise, the food is thrown in the garbage. I know this for a fact.
Thank you for telling me. Now you're going to have competition.
Yeah. I'm just saying, there are people like right after Pesach is over, on the Shabbat, they go there, Motzi Shabbat, and they go over there and they just
Right. Listen, it's Baal Tashchis. They're saving it from getting thrown out. They don't have to feel guilty about it. It's a wonderful thing. At least let other people benefit from it.
Exactly.
So it's a very nice thing. Okay, so coming back to the Gemara, then we have the Gemara goes into this. What are the nemushos that? So Amar Rabbi Yochanan Savi. Rabbi Yochanan says it's the old people, the Ozli Atigra, that go on their cane, on their stick. Reish Lakish says Lakuti Basa Lakuti. It's the people who have like a program of how they're gonna get everything. The poor person has his son walk in front of him, and he walks behind. So they are checking out every little thing. So we have Rabbi Yochanan, who said that these the older people who have a cane, so they have a lot of time. They're walking. While they're walking, they see everything. So they're basically gonna empty it out. They're gonna clean it out from anything good. We assume they got everything. They might have missed something, but whatever they missed, everyone else gives up on, because that's it. It's like not worth. It's not worth going back for, then it's going to be almost nothing there. And Reish Lakish basically says another type of way of calculating when it's over is when you have the Lakuti Basa Lakuti, the people who come with their son, and they really empty out the place between the son and them. They empty it all out, and it ends up being that everyone is, all the poor people are miyayish. They all give up hope from getting it, and at that point it becomes free for anyone. And then the Gemara says another reason, another purpose of the second rain. So again, the second rain would apply to the olives. That's when everyone can take it. That was the second answer. The third answer is Rav Papa Amakadei Lahalach B'Shvilei Harishus, that the second rain affects the ability to walk through other people's property, other people's fields, that until the second rain, you would be allowed to walk on their fields. Now, I don't advise it nowadays, walking on someone's property, especially in Florida, where they have a permit to shoot if they're nervous. But there is such a halacha that until the second rain, the person would have been allowed to walk through someone's field to shorten their path. And when the second rain comes, that's when you basically have to stop doing that, because you ruin the grain you ruin the grain. The grain has grown a little now. So after the second rain, you can't do that. But this is one of the decrees that Yeshua made when they entered the land, that until the second rain, you would be allowed to go on through other people's fields to have a shortcut. Okay, we're going to stop here.
I just want to know where he got the sign, I stand with Israel in Hebrew.
Ruvain, is that you? You're talking about the.
He has the background. It says, I stand with Israel in Hebrew.
Where?
Over your head.
No, it says that in English, no?
It says it in English. I have it in English.
Going from right to left.
Oh,
Thank you.
backwards.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Sei gesund.
Sei
Thank
gesund.
you, Rabbi.
Have a great day, guys.